I did an unboxing of this watch about 2 months ago, and since then I wore it on a stainless steel bracelet and on this new black rubber strap. I also got quite close and personal with this watch and even took it for a dip in the pool. Now, how's it holding up, and is it still as impressive 8 weeks later? Well, that's what we're here to find out. Hi and welcome to the channel. If you subscribed, thank you and very warm welcome back. And if you're new here, well, we do watch reviews on this channel, so join us by hitting that big red subscribe button over there. And yes, it will help us to bring you more reviews. I did quite a detailed review when I did unboxing and first impressions videos, so for the sake of not repeating the same things, and yet still making this video useful, I will briefly cover some of the key points and specifications. However, for the full review, I would recommend to check my first video about this watch, and I will leave the link in the description. I paid around $120 for this watch on AliExpress. This is of course a homage to a popular Seiko from 1970s reference 6105-8110, also known as Captain Willard watch. Since I started wearing this watch, I've got a very strong itch to check out Seiko's own reissue SPB151. However, I'm not convinced, especially the $1,300 price tag is a strong factor. Of course, Seiko used an updated movement with 70 hours of power reserve, and that Seiko watch seems to be quite popular within collectors' community. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think it will be worthwhile purchase, or dare I say investment? To be fair, the original Seiko Captain Willard was priced at around $95 in mid-70s, and now they sell around $3,000, if you can find one, of course, in a good condition, which is quite a significant increase in value, even if you adjust for inflation. Here is the quick recap of dimensions. The case width measured across from 3 to 9 o'clock is just under 44 mm, bezel diameter is 14.5 mm, case height is 14 mm. We have 20 mm lugs, and lug tip to lug tip is about 47 mm. Small lug to lug distance ensures a comfortable fit even on a slimmer wrists. Here is the watch on a 6.25 inch wrist. I will also show it on my about 7 inch wrist later in this video. Originally the watch came on a stainless steel bracelet, which is okay, however I have since replaced it with this rubber strap. On the bracelet this watch weighed 190 grams. It is definitely lighter on the rubber strap at 114 grams. The stainless steel bracelet with all the links removed will cover a minimum wrist size of about 6.25 inch, and at full length this bracelet should cover up to 8.25 inch wrists. And this rubber strap will cover up to 8.5 inch wrists, or about 21.5 centimeters in circumference. I haven't found any QC issues on the dial in the past few weeks, which is a good thing. I like the writing and the logo when I unboxed the watch, and my opinion hasn't changed since. All well balanced and in the right places. I have to note though that the dial is of a slightly lighter black, or rather matte black color, which is especially noticeable in the contrast with the black ceramic bezel. My guess is that probably SteelDive tried to keep up with the vintage aesthetics of the watch, and as a positive outcome, in a low light it makes the polished hands and applied indices to really stand out. However, in a normal light it did make the background of the dial look slightly bland. The interesting thing is that since I put it on a rubber strap, it changed the look quite dramatically and made the dial pop in my opinion, and now all these shades of black work together quite nicely. What do you think? Let us know in the comments. And of course, we cannot leave the discussion about the dial without mentioning the lume. It is one of the best I've seen. Lasts a while and it doesn't need much to charge. Frankly, for $120, I cannot think of any other watch with such a strong lume. Here is a quick shot of me checking the crystal with the diamond tester. Definitely sapphire. Nice and flat with slightly beveled edges. There is definitely an anti-reflective coating. The anti-reflective coating is applied on the inside of the sapphire crystal and as such is protected from being scratched. The anti-reflective coating that SteelDive used gives that slightly bluish hue. The blue hue is quite prominent. Looks like this is the type of coating SteelDive had opted for. I personally don't mind, it does the job pretty well, and for the tool diver I think it is important. Moving on to the bezel, although I didn't do any diving, I did swim with this watch on a couple of occasions and generally used every opportunity to get it wet. It might be early days, but the bezel action didn't degrade at all, as it sometimes can happen with the cheap bezel mechanisms. Bezel still works very well, the grip is good, the bezel action is reassuring, and the resistance is kinda just right. There is a slight backplate which was there from the start, which I think is okay for this price point. Other than that, the 120 click unidirectional bezel works just fine, and by the way, aligns perfectly as well, unlike some of the Seikos, I should add. And of course, the ceramic bezel is loomed, and loomed pretty much as good as a dial, and it really makes a bit of a show. Looking at the case, stainless steel construction, nice brushing and polishing, generally good finishing. The finishing on the back of the case is somewhat utilitarian, however, the screw-on case back with the logo looks pretty good in my opinion. Screw-down crown and screw-on case back, so SteelDive declares 200 meters of water resistance. A quick note here, after removing the stickers on the back of the case, I've noticed that the laser-etched engraving, while looks quite good, is actually a bit rough to touch. I have been wearing this watch for almost a week now, and I can say that it makes no difference on how the watch feels on the wrist, and it didn't cause me any discomfort, which is good. However, for the sake of completeness of this review, I wanted to make a note of it. In general, the case is very comfortable, and I like how this watch wears. Of course, the credit for such a great design doesn't exactly go to SteelDive. However, good on them for pretty flawless execution. SteelDive didn't take any chances here and went with tried and tested Seiko NH35 automatic movement, which hacks, hand winds, and has a power reserve of about 41 hours. I promised I will put this watch in a time graphic, and here it is. Healthy amplitude, a slight beta arrow, however, the accuracy is well within Seiko NH35 tolerances of -20 and +40 seconds a day. In general, the watch is keeping a good time, a wood on a crown, and from memory there was a question in the comments about it as well. So the crown is well threaded, it is smooth to unscrew and screw back, and it screws back nice and flush to the case. When it comes to crown operation, like setting the date and time for example, it works just fine. Of course, in part big thank you to the NH35 movement. Bracelet. Well, I took off the stock bracelet and replaced it with this WAFFLE rubber strap. The bracelet is actually not bad, solid links and solid end links, clasp is functional as I pointed out in my initial review. I took this watch swimming while on this bracelet, and a few weeks later there were still no signs of any corrosion of any sorts, which is also good. Now, the only gripes I had with this bracelet, and there were actually more than one, first being pressed clasp, which I am kind of okay with at this price point. Also, the clasp is not signed and there is no diver's extension. None of these were deal breakers for me at this watch price point. However, when this new WAFFLE rubber strap arrived, I didn't hesitate to put it on the watch instead of the stock bracelet. Okay, couple of words about the strap. I'm actually very pleased with it. When it arrived, it had a nice velvety feeling on the inside, which I thought would go away pretty quickly, but it didn't. And now a few weeks later, and a couple of weeks of wearing this watch on and off, the rubber strap still feels nice and smooth. It also gives the watch a more authentic 1970s look and, in general, makes the watch look pretty good, in my opinion. I will leave a link to the strap if you're interested, and I think this was $8 really well spent. So, will I still recommend this watch after wearing it for a few weeks? Well, the answer is definitely yes. As a matter of fact, I think SteelDive did a really good job here. I think this watch is really competitively priced, well spec'd and really well loomed, and in general really well put together. What are your thoughts about this? Please let us know in the comments. And of course, if you find this review helpful, give us a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.